I am never getting past this franchise, am I?
Nope.
Today is actually the 8th anniversary of me since last time I had pizza. Generic intro and the neck goes Moog here, back with another game theory video, and today we're doing, of course, another Five Nights at Freddy's video. Last week was the film theory video about FNAF 2, but this one is a game theory video saying, was FNAF's final mystery really that simple? Which, they are putting out so much FNAF content right now. I managed to do one Bendy in the Ink Machine video like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and next week they're probably going to drop like a Minecraft video. I don't know at this point, but it's becoming a joke and a meme, and it's actually getting funny at this point because people keep commenting on videos, patrons and whatnot, just like, Game 3 upload a new FNAF video, Film 3 upload a new FNAF video. You're gonna check out my reaction to the film theory video from last week. I'll leave it right up there. Also, the link down below in the description. Also in 2 playlists on my channel, one being the FNAF theories and another being all of my game theory videos. Go in a chronological order. I don't know what final mystery they're talking about, the crying child, the name, or I don't know. I guess it's just all going to be about names. It's a 20-minute video talking about names. I don't know. Shout out to the patrons. I couldn't do this if it wasn't for them. I'm losing my mind. Let's go ahead and jump into, was FNAF's final mystery really that simple?
After 9
also,
years and countless
if this video is live,
a crying child's name
I might be
has
streaming
been found.
on
That's
YouTube.
Right,
I
on
think
screen right
we're gonna
now
try to
is
do
the real name of FNAF 4's crying child. And by the end of this episode, you're gonna know exactly which one it is.
Gonna try to do a charity stream.
Hello,
for
Internet.
Western North Carolina.
Welcome to Game Theory, the show that's just desperately trying to keep up with the FNAF content train.
Me
It
too!
feels like there's been a lot, right? We had all that stuff from the 10th anniversary. We've had our first full
try to move on
the
to Bendy
Choose-Your-Own
Ink
Adventure
Machine
style book series. There's even a FNAF level in the new Funko Fusion game.
Huh?
Funko
Fusion.
There is lore in this thing, I
there
am
is.
going to
There's going to be.
scream. But while I was busy just trying to keep on top of all of that, someone else decided that
also,
it would be fun to add one final
today
slice
is
to my
actually the
already
8th anniversary
oversized
of me
mountain
since last time I had pizza.
Fellow theorist and friend of the channel,
Today.
Hyperdroid. Now, normally another theorist posting a theory of their own doesn't particularly slow me down. I'd normally finish writing what I'm doing and then I'd go back and watch that later. But this one was different because he claimed he'd done the impossible.
He figured out the code?
After years of speculation, he'd finally found the name of the crying child.
What?
That is a massive claim,
it is,
especially when so many others had tried and failed in the past.
Yeah, there's a lot of videos about that.
He backed it up with some pretty solid evidence that the fan base seemed to love.
But
we
is
were
it
inundated
confirmed?
with messages on our subreddit, Twitter, YouTube comments, all asking us,
is it still calling it Twitter?
Is he right? And I get it. Hyperdroid is a fantastic theorist, but this particular puzzle has eluded us for so long, to the point where most of us just thought it would never be solved. If he is right and we're all going to start calling the crying child something other than the crying child, we want to make sure it stands up to scrutiny. Don't want to be caught backing the wrong animatronic horse. So let's
also watch
Vanoss
play FNAF 2, and the game is worse than I thought. It's my first time seeing a playthrough of it. The video will be out tomorrow. Patrons will have.
Can't use Morty anymore, can we? And doesn't look like Matt's going to be interrupting me this time.
He might. He still might.
Something new. Oh, I know.
Leave your theories in the comments below. I'll pick my favorite in the next episode of Trash.
Yeah, that's about right. I guess that's what happens when I let Yossi pick the acronym. Let's give a trash take then, shall we? To understand how Hyperdroid came to find this new name,
also,
we first need to
that
recap
picture
where the mystery started. The survival logbook. After the release of FNAF 6, we got
which has that code that no one has cracked.
Puzzle book, but it turned out to be one of the biggest lore clues in the entire series. And I really do mean that. Inside, we have 3 characters talking to us. Mike Afton writing in red pen, a ghostly spirit writing in faded text, and a final spirit altering the physical text of the book. Across several pages, the faded text wrote the words, "my name." And on one page, my name was written on a gravestone. This reflected the 5th gravestone with no name that we found at the end of FNAF 6. Thanks to Reddit user DPowerful1, we realized that you could take the altered numbers on the pages where the words "my name" were found and use those as coordinates for the word search, giving us the name Cassidy, the 5th missing child. This in and of itself was a huge dub.
Yeah,
for the
no, that
FNAF
was a big
community,
deal.
But it was kind of bittersweet because there was another puzzle
Yeah,
in this
this
book
one.
that remained unsolved: the Foxy Grid. This grid had faded letters in the first few boxes, showing us that we needed to fill in the rest, and likely meaning we needed more coordinates to figure out a new name. The name of the spirit writing in altered text in the book, based on Cassidy's
It's
questions
so
about
just-
plastic telephone, psychic friend Fredbear, as well as a birthday party that was
seriously
for
don't know
him,
how
all
it's not
things
ever
seem to
been
be
leaked or
pointing to this
anything, you
final
know?
spirit being
'Cause maybe only
FNAF
Scott
4's
knows.
Crying Child. The Foxy Grid was going to finally help us figure out the name of this character. The problem was, nobody could solve it. Matt was literally ripping his hair out for years over this.
Literally
Some people
years.
tried to find the name in other places and then reverse engineer a solution. In Help Wanted, the FNAF 4 bedroom was called Norman Bedroom, so maybe
Norman, yep.
Some people thought Garrett because that's Mike's brother in the recent movie. Some even thought it might be Gregory because he's designed in a similar way to the Crying
Designed?
Child. But none of them were able to link it back to the Foxy Grid, and so it just felt inconclusive. A few Reddit users found the phrase "is Springtrap" using 6 Cassidy coordinates and 6 My Name page numbers. This seemed to pair nicely with My Name because it matched the FNAF 3 teaser. My name is Springtrap, and implied
Nice to
therefore
meet
that
you.
the ghostly text was actually Afton speaking to the Crying Child.
Oh, look at that
whose
favorite
name
without a
would
U.
therefore be Cassidy. But sadly, this solution ignores the 7th coordinate needed to make up the name Cassidy in the first place. And so by cherry picking 6 of the coordinates, it kind of causes the whole thing to fall
Yep.
apart. Finally, the most simple and well-known of the theories was offered by Reddit user Wolfie1740 Kingdom. They matched the questions
1740.
that
What happened in
Cassidy was
1740?
asking to the answers given by the Crying Child in altered text. The party was for you. It was for me. What do you see? I can't see. Does he
Oh.
still talk to you? I can hear sound.
That's it.
This gave them
That's
the
so
letters
ominous.
E, V, and A. But they
Evan?
weren't really able to figure out the final letter. Another Reddit
I mean,
user,
it just sounds like Evan.
813105, did manage to find a solution. They added up the tally marks to give them the final coordinates 39, leading to the letter N and the name
Which would be Evan. Yeah.
A lot of people really liked this name. And
It's gonna
thought
be
it was
wrong.
An interesting theory, but because you had to break the method on that final letter,
Oh.
it was just too tough a moon drop to swallow. Enter Hyperdroid. He too liked the initial method posed by Wolfie, but he agreed that the final letter
But
would
it's
need
not
to
it.
follow
Is
the
that our
same method,
actual,
especially as Crying Child
like,
does offer a
profile?
4th answer. I'm scared. So he took the same 3 answers to get the letters E, V, and A, but rather than skipping the 4th answer, he tried to match it to another one of the questions. On page 41,
what?
Cassidy asks, "Do you have dreams?" Initially,
Are
that
we
doesn't
just
seem to
gonna
make a lot
try
of
and
sense.
find
given the
something
response,
that
but
gives us the
underneath
letter
that
N?
question, Mike has drawn a picture of Nightmare. The Nightmare animatronics came from Williams' experiments on his kids, and it's been theorized that this is what was used to make the Crying Child scared of the animatronics in FNAF 4. That means the Crying Child would not only know what this is,
Very
but
familiar.
would also be afraid of it, leading to him giving the seemingly
I mean, it's called a
non-direct
nightmare, so-
answer, "I'm scared."
Probably
Taking
should
the
be.
page number for that question, you can plug it into the Foxy Grid and get the letter D. Spelling evad. Then noticing all the references
Evade?
the book had to reflecting, along with the random mirror next
Or
to the word
Dave.
search that's never been used for anything, Hyperdroid reflected the answer, giving them the
Dave.
Crying Child's name.
Dave.
D-A-V-E. Dave. Everybody lost their frontal lobes over this. But Hyperdroid wasn't done. Not only did he offer the initial solution, he also
What?
went classic game theory on
Still
all
a little
us
bit
and
of
used
assumptions
some
being made.
real-world evidence. He calls out that Dave, or more accurately the full name David, was the 3rd to 5th most popular baby
Really?
name for boys between 1970 and 1980.
What was, like,
around the
number
time that
one,
he would have been
Steve?
born. I love the fact he did this. Real-world evidence is so useful for theory crafting. It can give you insight into things that the games or
Wait, why
books
are they
might
showing
otherwise
as a-
not. And given
I'm
how
not-
important
not
this
gonna
name
make
is,
that
I
joke.
wouldn't be surprised if Scott had actually done some real-world research himself into the name. And what's more,
Not gonna
I
say
think
that.
we can actually expand upon Hyperdroid's idea here by getting a little more
That jacket is
specific.
really nice.
So let's give it a go. FNAF is commonly depicted as taking place in Hurricane, Utah. According to the
Hurricane,
United
Utah?
States Social Security Administration, between 1970 and 1980, David switched positions a few times, occupying either the 4th, the 3rd, the 2nd, or the 1st most popular spots, higher than what Hyperdroid presented. So we're off to a pretty good start.
Well, it's just
Although
you,
there's
yeah.
one detail about the Aftons that we never really talk about that could change all
Naming
of this.
schemes?
Ludwig actually mentioned it when he binged all
Ludwig.
of FNAF lore with Matt on stream.
Oh,
Matt,
boy.
why are
Why are they British?
Why are they British? The
That
kids are
is-
raised
that
in
is
like
probably the big-
Utah and they sound British.
When the Aftons speak, they sound British. Likely
Yeah, why-
somewhere from England based on the accents. I'd like to say it's nice to have some British representation in video games, but
Nah.
I'm not really sure this is the one I'd want to claim.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, this
How about about that?
Could throw a spanner
Baby
into the
names,
works, as
because
there's a
how
chance
popular
that
is that
William
word?
named his kids based on what was popular back home rather than where they lived now. So, was
Why
David still a
would-
popular name
I
in
guess
the
it's
UK?
his
Thankfully,
opinion.
the answer is abso-freaking-lutely.
True.
More so than in America, actually. According to the Office of National Statistics, David was the most popular
stadium
name
is
for
that?
boys in England from 1954 to 1974. After that, between 1974 and 1994, it only dropped
I
down
still
to
wasn't
number
born.
3. So still, this is looking like a pretty solid
Do
piece
you
of
know that
evidence
many
right
people
here.
named
Plus,
David?
we can actually take it a step further. Want
I
to
know,
guess
like,
what other name was in the
3 or
top
4.
10 baby boy names during the 70s? Michael. In the UK, Michael was the 9th most popular name for a boy, and in Utah, it was literally
That
the
state
number
flag.
1 name every year in the 70s,
Really?
except 1973, where it was
By
overtaken
David.
by Jason.
Oh.
Of course, Jason had to ruin the perfect streak.
I don't know who that is.
Blame Jason, am I right? Regardless,
People being
again,
named James
this
would just be one
seems to
person.
lining up pretty well. But what about the final Afton child, Elizabeth? Well, she is
that's gonna be a
also
popular
on these lists,
British name.
although she's nowhere near as popular. In the UK for that time, she was sitting between 20th and 25th
Really?
most popular name. And in Utah, it's similar, anywhere between 19th to 24th. That's not really as high as I'd like for it to feel like a solid connection. It isn't super bad.
I mean-
it would be way worse if the names were like
Yeah,
50th
what?
or 100th most popular.
Oh, that's
you know?
true.
But if
It
this
is a
has been
popular
used
name
as
still.
evidence for how Scott picked his names, then Elizabeth would likely need to follow that same pattern. And in reality, she'd have then ended up being called something like Sarah or Jennifer, both #1 names for the time period in the UK and Utah respectively. Therefore, while David was a really popular name between the 1970s and 80s, it
I wonder
kind
how
of feels
popular
like
the
a
name Kyle
weaker
is.
connection. Maybe Scott just thought Elizabeth sounded more British because that was the Queen at the time. Who knows? No need to worry though, because that wasn't the only real-world evidence Hyperdroid used. He also mentioned the meaning of the name David. While it was a popular name in both the UK and the US, it's actually of Hebrew origin, meaning beloved. Fun fact,
what?
Thomas
I didn't
also
know
comes
that.
from a Hebrew word that means twin. I'm not a twin, at least as far as I know. Maybe you can
As
let
far
me
as
know
I
down in
know.
the comments if you think you found my long-lost twin. For this theory though,
my twin
Hyperdroid
is,
claims that the
PewDiePie.
meaning does make sense. He connects the meaning of beloved to the crying child's brother Mike, and how his whole character arc is caused by killing his
Also,
brother.
why
showing us
Hebrew?
that his brother
Of
Dave
all
was
languages,
beloved
that's an
by
interesting one to pick.
This is where
there
I
any
have
connection
to press
there?
X to doubt. While, yes, Michael does say sorry to his brother by the end of FNAF 4, the rest of his actions don't really say that he considered his brother beloved. He jump scares him, he actively puts him into an animatronic,
It's
he
fine.
doesn't
It's-
seem
yeah,
to
it's
care
fine.
about him at all. After
That's what
that,
brothers
his
do, right?
actions seem to be spurred on more by his father. Afton sent him down into Sister Location, where he then
That
learned about
game.
Elizabeth and the monster his father was, and so went on a quest to destroy him. Some of that
Fire.
may have come from the guilt of killing his brother, but I'm just not convinced enough to say that Michael considered his brother beloved. Now, that doesn't mean that I think the meaning David being
Do you think
beloved
maybe
is invalid evidence at
he
all.
did
may
that
not
to
have
save
been
his
beloved
brother
by
from
Michael, but
the
he was
father's
beloved by someone
experiments?
else. William didn't want his little boy gone. He didn't
My little
want
game
him to
theory
die.
there.
He needed to save him. I will put you back together. We've also believed for a long while that he killed Charlie in a drunken or emotional rage after the death of his own son. That wouldn't happen if he didn't care
wild.
about his kid, if his son wasn't beloved. And by associating that meaning with Afton, other pieces fall into place for the other Afton kids as well. Michael once again comes from the Hebrew language, and it means who is like God. Typically, this is meant as a rhetorical question.
Michael is
because
an
there is no one
archangel,
like God, but it could also
right?
be interpreted as a statement. Michael, who is like God. William is a man who has figured out
One of the most
power
powerful
over life
angels
and death
supposed to be
in this
Michael, I
world.
believe.
He sees himself as a god, and Mike tells us himself that the Funtime animatronics confuse him for his father.
They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you.
He is like his father. He
Well, before
is
he turned all
who is
purple.
like
Well, he
God.
eventually turned
The same thing
purple.
goes for the name Elizabeth. It's derived from the Hebrew name Elisheva and means "my God is a promise." One of the only lines we get from Elizabeth before she becomes baby
Is
is
the
her
promise?
begging William to let her play with
Oh.
baby.
Oh, Daddy, let me go to her. Didn't you make her just for me?
Baby was made by Afton for Elizabeth. She's annoyed because she is now being
And she
denied
can't play
the
with the
thing
toy
made
that was made and
specifically
promised
for
to her.
The thing
Makes
that
sense.
was promised to her by her father, by the god of this world. After that, she disobeyed and got scooped. And so Afton made her another promise, the same one he made the crying child. He sent Michael down into the bunker to put her back together. 3 Afton kids, 3 Hebrew names, 3 meanings that all point back towards dear old dad.
D-
It's like
but
poetry.
Poetry, so if they rhyme.
Interestingly,
I don't know what that was a
isn't
reference
of
to.
Hebrew origin, it's actually Germanic, but it also has an
Maybe that's like the
interesting
origin.
resonant
Okay, maybe it wasn't
protector
just a
of strong
translation. Maybe it's
real
actually just origin where names
He
come from. I
tried
don't know
to
where cow
protect
comes
Elizabeth.
from.
He was resolute in fixing and protecting the crying child.
My parents
after she
just
died.
wrote
And
down
if you
on
don't
a
call
piece of
surviving a
paper
spring-locking
individually,
strong-willed,
and they
I don't
both
know
shared
what
it.
else you'd call it. So
And they
from a
both wrote down
thematic
Kyle.
standpoint,
That's my name.
The name Dave does seem to work. Its meaning fits what we know of the character, and it ties into the same themes as the rest of the Afton family. It's at this point, though, I should probably
That's FNAF
address the
2.
Orville in the room. Real-world research is great, and strong connecting themes.
Dude, I was
are
so happy when I
fantastic
found a number
pieces of
3 and number 1
supplementary
pencil.
evidence. But that's the point. They're supplementary. If the core evidence isn't there to back it up in the first place, then it don't mean squat. It all comes down to the actual method that Hyperdroid used to solve this puzzle. And I'll be honest, when I first saw it, I was a little unsure. Using the faded text of "the party was for you and what do you see" make complete sense for the answers "it was for me and I can't see." I can hear sounds technically works with "does he still talk to you?"
Yeah.
Though it's not the cleanest, but I'm scared being a response to "do you have dreams" does feel like a bit of a stretch. The line only works because of the
technically,
nightmare drawing
dreams
on
can
the
kind of
same
make you real
page,
scared.
even though none of the other questions
puppet.
need
Ugh,
context
God.
clues from the page.
That Vanos
This
video.
was also exacerbated when Hyperdroid pointed back to a Reddit post by the user Ecstatic Marzipan 7 from the GT subreddit. They came up with a solution 3 years ago, so way to represent the GT community. But when I took a look at the original post, they were receiving similar pushback. People were commenting the same things that I'm saying now. However, we theorists are nothing if not thorough. We always dot our I's and cross our T's.
Is that what
Rather
that
than just
actually
say,
means?
"This answer feels wrong" and throwing the whole thing out, I wanted to go back through the logbook and do a bit of my own reverse engineering. I marked down every page number where Cassidy wrote something in the logbook.
Oh,
and then
this could be
used
useful.
those page numbers in the Foxy grid to find all the possible letters we could get to see if any of them gave us usable answers that we could then go back and pair with "I'm scared." 2 of them got ruled out immediately.
Which are?
What do you remember and do you miss them? Because they're on pages 20 and 70. You can't
Which you
go
can't,
0
yeah.
down on a grid, so they're out. On page 56, we
Makes
get
sense.
"what's your favorite ride the carousel?" But that spells Vave, so that's out too. 3 of Cassidy's questions.
Oh,
did
because
give
it
us
doesn't make
letters
a
that
name?
technically work. "Do you remember your name?" is on page 31. "Do any of these toys look familiar to you?" is on page 42. And "did one of these belong to you?" is on page 43. 31 gives us a C, 42 gives us a W, and 43
What
gives
W?
us a P. Using these letters, you can spell cave, wave, and pave.
Uh,
All real words, but not exactly
Not names, yeah.
Especially considering the very normal Mike and Elizabeth. Although
True.
page 43 isn't actually labeled as
William.
43. It's one of the altered page numbers, and it shows 15. So I tried that too,
And that
and
is-
it gave me Yave, another dud. The only time I got close to another answer was by using page 23, which ironically gives you an N spelling Evan. Was Wolfie actually right?
Would it be
all those
Evan?
years ago?
I don't know. What do you
Yeah,
think?
no. If
No?
you thought
Okay.
"do you have dreams" made no sense with "I'm scared," I feel like "was your favorite childhood toy a plastic telephone"
Yeah, I'm
is
scared.
an even
Yeah, no, that's
worse
bad.
answer. It would then mean we haven't reversed anything either, and so the mirror in the middle of the book would also remain unused, which isn't really ideal. The last
I mean, it's
page
gotta
to
be there
try
for
was
some reason, right?
83, where Cassidy asks, "Is this song familiar to you?" This gives you a T in the Foxy grid, and I tried using this as both an alternative
What?
for "I'm scared" as well as "I can hear sounds," just to be sure, but no combination of those letters
Make
made
a
a name
name.
either. Which means, by process of elimination, "do you have dreams" does kind of have to be the answer. If it's not,
does it
we
have to
also
be?
have to throw out
I don't know if
letters
this has
E,
to
D,
be
and
the
A
answer.
too, because we need to find an entirely new method to solve this grid. And at this point, I
Dude.
kind of feel like if there was another method, someone surely
I
would
don't
have
know
found it.
what's more
I'm
important.
sure
Like,
that
do
some
people care more about the
still
box
aren't
or
going
about
to
the
be
crying
happy with
child's
this
name?
solution. For all the other questions, Crying Child was just responding to the words Cassidy said. But for this final one, you have to use Mike's drawing to get the full interpretation. As I've already said, that kind of breaks the method. Not as much as finding the N for Evan using the tally marks did, but enough that it doesn't feel satisfying. Except when you stop and look back, Scott actually did the same thing with the Cassidy puzzle. Think about
What do
it.
you mean?
At the start, we were using altered page numbers from pages with my name written on them. But as the puzzle went on, that changed. Suddenly, we stopped using altered page numbers and began using other altered numbers from the page, like 7 and 2 or 10 and 11. On some pages, we're not even using altered numbers. One of them, we use numbers written by Mike,
8 and
a
11.
completely different character. And on another, you have to follow Mike's clue to a different page and then use the numbers that are just in the book. They're not altered, they're not written down, they're just there.
Also, for that situation, would you do 9 or would you do 5 and 4?
Puzzle, but the actual number used for the coordinates was different. That rule was being broken. And yet, no one really batted an eyelid when that was pitched out. Why? Because we got an answer that made sense. Yes,
Yeah,
the method
also, has
was
that been confirmed?
a little messy, but clearly it was the correct solution that Scott had planned, given he then went on to confirm the name
Oh,
Cassidy.
it is- okay,
in his
it is
cancelled
confirmed.
Movie ideas.
4
To me,
years
this
ago.
is the same situation.
Bad news
We
about FNAF
finally
movie?
have
No,
an
I think
answer
it-
that
I think it
spells a
went
name
pretty good.
and follows the same kind of puzzles, even if the method is a little messy. Maybe Scott wanted to make the puzzles harder as they went on, or, you know, maybe he just isn't that good at planning puzzles to begin with.
No,
We
he's
theorists
great,
are
I'd
so
say.
used to complex ciphers and ARGs that sometimes I think we expect everything we solve to be on that level, but in
No,
actuality,
it's a
not
kid's
everyone
book.
is. And so the simplest solutions can actually be the best. All that being said, what do I actually think? Is Dave the real name of the crying child? Well,
Unconfirmed?
even though a little messy, the solution does fit. It gives an answer for the random mirror in the middle of the book, and it works thematically with all of the Afton children and their parts in the story. Is Crying Child's name Dave? For me, after spending days
What about
going
David?
back and
I don't
forth,
know.
back and forth, looking at every side of the argument, I have to say that the answer is a resounding yes. I believe that Dave is the name of the crying child.
Wouldn't it be
So,
David
to
or
Hyperdroid,
Davey?
Static
Like,
Marzipan 7,
do
and
kids
any
just-
other
little kids
FNAF
go by
theorists that
Dave?
came up with this solution over the years, congratulations, you did it. You solved the Foxy Grid, and you got the theorist seal of approval. Editor, cue the applause!
Until Scott comes out and is like, nope, wrong.
So nice to give one of these out, especially to people like Ecstatic Marzipan 7, who solved this thing over 3 years ago.
Kinda crazy.
It's a helpful reminder that there are some fantastic theorists out there. We just need to
strength in numbers.
out. Whether they're a tiny channel here on YouTube, a small post on a subreddit with only 2 upvotes, or a random reply on a Discord server, they can have ideas that are just as good as any one of us bigger channels. It may go against our own personal headcanons, but if this experience has taught us anything, it's not to discount those ideas just because they're a little out there. Give them a chance. Who knows?
I mean,
they might
yeah,
actually
it kinda
have the
makes sense.
solutions we've all been looking for. But hey, that's just a theory.
Mangle is a
game
what?
Theory. Thanks for watching.
Oh, Lord.
And if you're looking for more FNAF theory
I've
reviews,
seen all of
just
them.
Bite of 83, the video on screen, to watch our
I've
reaction
seen them all.
to dual process theories. Theory. Review away, theorists.
I've seen them all. I cannot escape this franchise. Never. I can never escape this franchise. Oh man, this was interesting. Do you think it's actually? I'm sorry. Is that a video on Power Wash Simulator? What? Huh? Tails is broken. What? I don't know what these are. I guess if there's no Minecraft theory or anything, or a FNAF video for next week. Oh, nope. Stop it, phone assistant. We'll get back to Bendy and the Ink Machine with the second one. I recorded the first one, and then the day after they dropped the film theory video on FNAF. They dropped it on Sunday. I've recorded it on Saturday. Which is usually when I'm recording this video on Saturday. Well, technically, it's 2 in the morning. But yeah, no, this was... I did not expect them to drop a Crying Child name with the 10th anniversary and all that just going down. So, this was out of the blue, and maybe we finally have some answers, which is kind of cool. Maybe we'll get that confirmed by Scott at some point, hopefully. And then we can finally put the whole Crying Child name to bed and just call him Dave from now on. But then people are going to be like, wait, who's Dave? You mean the Crying Child? But I would love to read your comments on this and hear what you have to say. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. But until the next video, take care and keep the music.
We were playing